Morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thanks for tuning into this video. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. Obviously, morning for me. I'm driving in my office, one of my offices. Boy, you guys, let's start with an energy update, shall we? And I'll go into maybe a little car flow at the end, or I might do part one and part two. We'll see how I feel. You guys, when I go into flow, what I'm doing is I'm sharing energy. I'm sharing a way of expressing energy that gives an energy update also. It basically, I'm sharing a way in communicating how my guides and higher versions of myself communicate. And I'm bringing it through into this dimension, into this time stream, and into this reality. So I'm going to start there. The first thing I want to talk about is creation. There are a lot of us that are really kind of lost right now. And I'll just say, that's okay. What is that saying? Not all who wander are lost. There's so many energies, and we're going through like this metamorphosis that's so wonky that I feel like it's different. I mean, sometimes 1 hour goes by and I'm like, who am I? What's going on right now? I'll have these ahas that are so expansive in that 1 hour that what I wanted to talk about an hour ago seems no longer relevant. Other things that I thought were well past, way in the past, done, expired is what I'm hearing, is now spiraling up and showing itself to me again. And I'm like, what? Where did you come from? So it's all happening at the same time, which can feel really out of balance and out of line. Jump in the line, rock your body in time. Okay, I believe you. You guys, when I say that, I'm going to give an example of how wacky my reality is. For those of you who've watched these videos for a while, thank you. You know how wacky my reality is from one perspective. And I also wanted to say that no matter what we're all going through, none of us really know what each other is going through. So even though I present these videos and you might have an idea of who I am and what I'm like, we don't really know. We don't really know each other, you guys. We don't. Although from another perspective, we are all one. We are all connected. And we all come from the same source. But we're each on our own unique individual journey. And no one person can truly, really know what that other person has been through, has experienced, is experiencing in the same way that they're experiencing it, even though we might pick up on similarities in each other's fields. And I really want to express that because there is an element right now. I just went into 5 different places, you guys, about these energy updates. There is an element that we feel this need to be, soul family with others. And we are soul family with others, you guys. But that soul family is also on their own unique individual journey and expression. Just because you have a dream about someone doesn't mean that they had that same dream about you. Just because you have a dream that you want to share with someone doesn't mean they're going to get it. And that is part of our journey, is going through those disappointments, going through those realizations of feeling isolated sometimes and alone. Even when someone else gets us, I might do an intuitive reading. That doesn't mean I see everything. And so letting go of those expectations for other people to really understand what we're going through and be okay with that is part of this, you guys, part of this journey. I've had readings, I've had relationships, friendships, a lot of these things. And at moments, my human aspect has been disappointed because I'm like, oh, I thought that person got me, but they really don't. And then recognizing that that's okay. They really don't need to. It's not their responsibility. It is not someone else's responsibility to fully understand what we're going through. It isn't. And letting go of that gives us the freedom to understand, not from a perspective, because I can already hear there's this element of, well, then that means I truly am alone. And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we're multidimensional beings, and we are never truly alone. But who and what we connect with at different times will change. Therefore, the perspective in which we hold about ourselves will change, which also means their perspective about us and what we might be experiencing or going through will also shift and change. So not hanging on to a particular person, place, or thing, assuming that they are one way when they're not, is really powerful and valuable and important. And that's one of the big things that's been coming through. Some of us hang on to teachers expecting them to look a certain way or feel a certain way, or we project onto them what they should be looking like and feeling like, you guys. And that is our deal, not theirs. So recognizing that, where are we projecting onto family members, friends, relationships, people that we work with, we think that they are one way, and that may not be true because that's what we are maybe intuitively picking up on, but that doesn't mean we're intuitively picking up on the entirety, the entire picture. We're only seeing it from one angle, from one perspective, based on our experience or directive that we're holding in that now moment. And this goes back to a message that I had received quite a while ago, but it's relevant again now, is recognizing that puts a limitation on that other person. It limits. You're projecting a limitation on that person, saying this person should look like this, or this person should feel like this, or I intuitively know what that person's experiencing. No, we don't. And that is something that I'm seeing happening in the collective. Not necessarily intuitively, but people go, oh, I'm seeing it. I work with quite a few people who have lost loved ones lately. And they're being projected onto, and it's difficult for them because they might have lost a spouse, and someone who's lost a parent is saying, oh, I know exactly how you feel. And that person who has lost a spouse says, no, you don't. And it actually triggers that person to say, how dare you assume to know what I'm going through right now, even though we're trying to help. Part of that comes from us projecting or trying to help that other person feel better by us, so I'm just saying that that's part of what we're seeing in a collective experience. So we're being invited to take a step back, and I feel oftentimes I know what someone's gone through because I've gone through a lot in my lifetime. And while I may know from one perspective, because we are all one, and while I may have experienced something in my own reality and lifetime that is almost identical to what that other person is experiencing, it's never really identical. And that's a play on words. It's never really the same as what they've experienced because I'm not them. So that's something we're really being called to ask ourselves. And I've said this before, where are we projecting? Where are we assuming? I'm just going to pause now that I'm stopped. Where are we hanging on to the idea of what that person should be feeling or experiencing? And then look at ourselves then and ask ourselves the same question. Where am I hanging on and needing to control a particular reality that maybe isn't who I am anymore? So I kind of took that into 5 different directions. Kind of lost where I was going in the beginning of this. Send me an angel. Do you believe? That song was playing in my head. In heaven above. Okay, the shifts. So that's really important from one perspective that I've been seeing, because I get caught into that sometimes too. I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're feeling. I can't possibly understand what someone else is feeling that has lost a spouse, even if I've lost loved ones in many lifetimes and I remember those lifetimes. Even then, I know innately what they're going through. But right now, I have a spouse that I love. We have a beautiful relationship. That's a whole other video because that's taken work as well. And that's taken me not projecting. And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. So I can't presume to know what this person who's lost their spouse recently is going through. Even though I can feel into all I can do is hold space for them and offer things that may assist them in other areas of their life, or just listening, just being a shoulder to cry on. So this is relevant because there's a lot of people that go, oh, I know what's going on with that person. I see it. So those that are intuitives that have just had again, there's a lot of projection. That's a form, from my perspective, of projection. We might see it, but that doesn't mean we really get it. So again, perspective, direction, angles, seeing things from all angles, not getting caught up in our version of their reality, and then saying, well, this is what it should look like. This is what it does look like. This is it. This is the way. This is the only way. Okay, I'm not going to go into too many details on that because I'm just seeing a lot of projection out there in all versions, in the healing community or spiritual community, as well as our collective, right? About you name it. All kinds of projections going on. Okay. Relationships. So my relationship has shifted and changed a lot over the past 4 years. I've gone through stages, and I might do a video just on this because I know there's a lot of you out there who are also going through stages. Maybe you're just coming online, I call it, or becoming aware of certain gifts and abilities, and your partner is not. That is going to require a whole video. But I will say that it's not about your partner. From one perspective, I'll just keep it simple. It's about us. Now, from one perspective, as you shift and change, if that individual is also shifting and changing, they will grow with you. And if they're not, they won't. And there will come a point when you have to make a choice. And that choice is this what I want? Is this who I am from a bigger perspective? Does this relationship, friendship, even with a family member, is it what I need right now? Or can I see the bigger picture? Is this something that I can grow with? Is this something that we're both expanding into? So I know that's a whole other video, but I'll just briefly touch on that because it has been a subject in session. From my perspective, it takes work. My husband and I have worked together we've been together a very long time, and our relationship has grown stronger because I've let go of the need to control his outcome, his reality, and how he perceives things. I mean, not always. Sometimes I want to control that and go, well, this is how it looks, and you're not seeing the whole picture. I am. And then I recognize, ooh, my little ego just popped up, and I felt the need to control how this looks to him, when in his reality, that's not how he's seeing it. And whether that doesn't make it wrong, it just makes it different. And can I let go of the need to control that? And can I hold space for what he might be experiencing right now from a completely different perspective, even though I might have a bigger picture of what could be helpful for him? That doesn't mean he is ready for that. And that's a little multidimensional because I could go into many different perspectives. Where are we needing to control another person's narrative, and can we just allow them to unfold in their own time? Now, sometimes it's not fast enough for us, I know. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, and if it's, of course, detrimental to our well-being, that's not what I'm referring to. Sometimes us feeling as we go through these changes alone, even in a relationship or in a family dynamic or in a work setting, are part of this process. So we can come back to that space of recognizing that we're never alone. It just feels that way sometimes. And as soon as we come back to that space, or we get even a little bit of validation that keeps us kind of on track, oftentimes we can sigh that sigh of like, okay, yeah, all right, that's on me. And maybe that's something that I am feeling for a reason. And then that takes us into a bigger expansive bubble, and a bigger expansive bubble, and a bigger expansive bubble. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of fear bubbling up again. So I want to share what I was shown esoterically. I had this vision of this ginormous bubble coming up from underneath our feet. This sphere of energy. It looks like aurora. It looks like when you blow a bubble, which I refer to bubbles all the time. My reality exists within bubbles, within bubbles, within bubbles. Or, oh, beautiful bird right now. I just went subatomic particle layers of expansive bubbles of frameworks that are shifting and changing in a geometric alchemy and codation of virtual realities within virtual realities that are virtually real within our access points, access nodes. They are nodes within nodes. They are sub layers, if you will. Anyways. This bubble is coming up from the earth. It's literally expanding. And it's at our feet. I could say it's at our fingertips. I gotta listen to that bird. And within this layer and within this bubble is this massive energetic composition and composure of sound, of love, of something that we have access to now, and it is the new earth from one perspective. So to think of it instead of us reaching up, it's coming up to us. And I know I could go into, again, another video on that, because from another perspective, we are expanding out and we are connecting with higher layers. From another perspective, we're being compressed, and that is also expanding out, coming down to us. From another perspective, we are magnetizing that to us. From another perspective, we're electrically connecting with this frequencies, with these higher dimensions of existence. From another perspective, the earth is expanding also, therefore she is encompassing us in her field or bubble that is now available and fully accessible should we acknowledge, integrate, ask to receive it, ask to connect with, be aware of it. The question that comes up I can feel is, well, what if we aren't aware of it? Are we still able to access it? And the answer to that would be, it doesn't matter because it's part of us. But from another perspective, I can hear the ego saying, but of course it matters. You have to work. You have to acknowledge. You have to recognize so that you can, and that is true. But from another perspective, just by being present and being in the heart and allowing this to unfold puts us in that space, allows us to receive the upgrades, the information, and the more ahas that are coming in. But from another perspective, if we're in a place of coherence, we already are receiving those. I know, I just went poof, 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 poof. Okay, let's get back to the simplicity things. I have 5 minutes. From a simplistic perspective, we are drawing to us and pulling up from and expanding out into more of us. So this means what we look around and see is going to look different. What we're seeing in that other realm or reality, we'll call it mainstream, might look the same. But if we're really paying attention, we're going to start to recognize and pick up on certain inconsistencies that are not part of this new reality. And so those are starting to really shift. And I don't want to go there right now because I'm just trying to be very multidimensional about this. we're shifting back and forth from one perspective. Yet at the same time, we're in both at the same time. So if you picture, you could call it the flower of life or the Vesica Pisces, and I'm not here to talk about geometry and Vesica Pisces, and now we're into the triple, we were in the double, and now we're in Pisces and we're going into Aquarius. That's not what I'm referring to, but at the same time it kind of is. So I'm here, I'm experiencing certain things, but I can also see 5 minutes ago where I was, what I was experiencing then. I can watch someone else be in that in-between space. I can see potentials in their next bubble of awareness and maybe 5 bubbles around them, and they might only be able to see that one. And at the same time, I can see that within my own reality and see these multiple variations. Doesn't mean I can see all of them. Let's see, put this way. From one perspective, we could be in a friendship and see that person is not lining up with my version of reality, and we're really not vibrating in the same space. But from another perspective, I don't see them at all. I just don't talk with them. I don't hear from them. All of a sudden they poof, disappear, because now I'm in a different place than I was, and they're not there. And it's okay. I don't have to try to reach out and pull them to come with me, because when that time is right, if that time is right, it will naturally occur. But on the flip side, if that person comes into my real reality and says, hey, I could really use a little assistance, a little help, then I realize, okay, now they're branching and expanding out. I'm here. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's difficult to explain. But essentially, we can then, by us being that higher vibration, that person will be naturally drawn into that space, and we're leading by example. We're not doing it by projecting onto them what that should look like for them. And that leads me back to what I was saying earlier. Does that make sense? You following what I'm putting down? So it's hard to explain from a linear perspective because we are shifting in and out of frequencies. I think Bashar talks about this. Bashar talks about how we're different like all the time. Other people say, well, that's who I was. Now this is who I am. This is the old me. This is the new me. I see that as constantly shifting and changing and all of that. But for an easier perspective, we could say a month ago, maybe I was called to a certain group, friendship, relationship, and now in this month, that's not where I am. But what if you went backwards? What if you feel like you went backwards and you're like, oh no, now I'm back in the old bubble. What do I do now? Again, that can shift immediately. It can shift faster. And it might be that we're not really in the old bubble. We're just being shown aspects of us, or let's say versions of us, or parts of us that are being integrated, or I don't even want to call it shadow, but we're there. We're in the higher vibration, but we're seeing other things that are maybe not, parts of us that are not, and we're being called to unify them. And by us seeing those things, it doesn't mean we have to attach to who we were and then go back into that lower frequency. It just might mean that we're able to now see it where we weren't able to see it before. Does that make sense? Because I think some people, I've talked to a few people and they're like, I think I went backwards. And I'm going to end on this note. And I'm seeing their reality, and I'm like, no, you didn't. You didn't go backwards. You're just seeing things that you couldn't see before. Or something is showing up to you, for you, that maybe is still a little out of alignment. But the fact that you're seeing it is bigger than when you were in it before, because you couldn't see it before. From another perspective. And from another perspective, some people did go backwards because they still had things they had to process or take with them, or things that really were big that they just couldn't seem to integrate. And so they're now in another bubble, but there's nothing wrong with that. So these layers are within layers are within layers. And all of these realities are kind of overlapping. And I'm going to end on that note. So we think we're maybe, I was shown, I did a reading for a friend this week, and in her reality, I saw it shifting gears. So she was shifting gears on a bicycle. If you've ever ridden a bike and you shift a gear on a bicycle, but it gets like, it doesn't quite click into place, but you're still going. And it makes that annoying click, 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 click sound until you downshift. Sometimes you have to downshift, or sometimes you have to upshift, and you have to pedal harder in order to get back to the speed that you were at before. So she just didn't realize that she was already in this higher gear, but it was just a moment to where it had to all click into place for her to feel that she was already in this higher gear. And what I'm also being shown is a lot of people aren't stuck. They're moving now, whereas before they were really stuck. Now they're moving and they're like, uh-oh, well, wait a minute, I'm moving, things are happening, but I don't know what that looks like. Or because now everything looks different, and so they think that they must have done something wrong. And it's not that at all. It's just that everything looks different. Even though certain circumstances are still showing up for us, we are not who we are a month ago. And if we feel like we are, that's another video, because then what we're being called to do is, all right, go back to the basics then. What is it that we're really missing? Or is it that we're not missing anything at all? And everything that's showing up for us is showing up for us to acknowledge, recognize, integrate, process, so that we can fully digest it, so that that bubble or membrane that we feel stuck within dissolves, and then we can see, oh, we're already where we thought we were striving so hard to get to. So on the gear analogy, sometimes we have to pedal faster, even though we feel like we're going the same speed. And sometimes we just have to slow down and just pedal a little harder and be a little bit more consistent. But trust that our bicycle, our vehicle, is getting us there. And trust that maybe neither one of those is changing the speed. It just feels like it is. Because if you're riding a bike and you pedal faster, that doesn't mean you're going any faster. So sometimes we have to recognize, well, we're in a gear, we're shifting gears. It just doesn't feel like we're going anywhere. We're not changing our speed. We're just letting this adjustment occur. And during that phase, during that adjustment, it can feel like we're not going anywhere, but our gears are still moving. Our bike is still going somewhere. But on a multidimensional perspective, all is now. So we're being invited also to ask ourselves, what are we trying to get towards? Be still and know. And sometimes at center in the tornado, we recognize that everything is already here and we do not actually have to speed up or slow down to get there. It just is. Whew, and that is like way a whole other level. And some people have mastered that. Most people go in and out of that mode. And that's kind of the fun of this, you guys. That's kind of the excitement. I know. And I haven't even gone into the world. I haven't dipped into, maybe I'll do that in a video when I leave my office, on my way out of my sessions, of how that looks in the collective. But I hope that helped. And yeah, in love and light, you guys. So all in all, breathe, get into your heart, notice how you're feeling, recognize that if a lot of things are coming up for you that seem similar and you're having all these issues, stop and ask yourself, yes, but how do I feel? Do I feel a little bit different than the last time I went through this issue? Right? Am I a little less emotionally attached? Am I a little less triggered? Am I a little less emotionally charged? Does this have something slightly different? Does it look slightly different? Because that's the key in recognizing that if it does, oh, okay, well then I have changed. This potential has shifted. My perspective has shifted. And it's those little things. It's those little moments that are key. Okay, in love and light. Namaste.